It's worth talking for a few minutes about the business of writing comics and graphic novels, because it's a world that's a little different than a lot of other enterprises, a lot of other types of entertainment, things in the entertainment industry. We should begin by recognizing what I think most people can appreciate, and that is there are two dominant companies, two dominant publishers that have tended to be responsible for most of what we've enjoyed with comics and graphic novels, certainly with comics. And that of course, are the two publishers, Marvel and DC. And they've been responsible for a great deal of output. However, there are some difficulties with the model that they use. The primary difficulty has to do with the compensation, especially the rights that writers and artists enjoy working with DC and working with Marvel. For the most part, they have to give up their proprietary rights, their copyrights to the material, and they become hired artists and hired writers for those two companies. And that has led to some disputes, especially with some of the classic comics. For example, Laura Siegel, the daughter of Jerry Siegel, the creator of Superman, has been engaged in a 15-year fight to try to recover some of the royalty rights to the character Superman. So far, she's not had very much success. Not too long ago, she wrote an open letter to a lot of people in the industry, and she undoubtedly was able to obtain a fair amount of sympathy, but it didn't seem to help her case very much. Another situation has been the writing of Alan Moore, and the two graphic novels for which he's best known are V for Vendetta and Watchmen. Now, those two have been made into successful motion pictures, but in this case also, Alan Moore has not been in control of many of the rights and the things that related with those two novels. And at a certain point, he had a break with the publisher. And now it's a very uneasy relationship. Alan Moore is a very interesting, unique character anyway, who seems to have a political bent toward political anarchy, and that seems to sort of come through the seams from time to time, and that's certainly a theme in both of the graphic novels that we just mentioned. It's gotten to the point where there have been certain promotions, 20th anniversary for this novel or that, and Alan Moore has just declined to participate in all of those things. So that's been a difficulty with the two major publishers. For that reason, there have been a couple of other companies that have arisen. The two best known are Image Comics and Dark Horse Comics, and they have an entirely different business model. And in their business model, the writer, the artist, retains the copyright to their work. And there's a lot of traction to that. The difficulty with that, however, is that it's a slow start for those who are involved in the production of the graphic novel or of the comics. That is to say, they're not getting much money up front, nor is there much of a guarantee that they're going to be able to enjoy compensation, because it's sort of a wait-and-see attitude. We will invest in a minimal way in this, and we'll see how things go. Now, that contrast with the way in which DC and Marvel compensate their writers and artists, essentially, they contract with writers and artists who contribute on an ongoing basis to the best known and most successful comic series they have. So, for example, in ongoing issues of Superman or Batman, you're talking about a number of writers who have contributed to the series. And that advantage of that, of course, you've got a regular income that you can count on. And by contrast with the independent publishers, there is less guarantee of income. Another problem that goes along with that is that there is a lack of editorial oversight with the independent publishers, with Image and with Dark Horse, and so sometimes the quality suffers for that reason. And even those who have been successful, for example, with Image, will admit that from time to time editorial oversight would be useful in the production of some of these works. So because of that, we might say that with these indie publishers, there's a kind of a social Darwinism at work. It is a kind of survival of the fittest. That is, if you're successful, you're going to reap the rewards of that. If you're not successful, if there isn't an audience that grows in response to your creativity, then you're going to tend to be eliminated as, in a sense, the weaker of the comic universe, and those individuals will gradually decline. There's another disadvantage to the indie model, and that is that largely it's an agreement between the writer and the artist. Usually the writer is the first among equals in the relationship. Now there is of course a contract of sorts that transpires between the artist and the publishers. Nonetheless, the publisher is in some ways at the mercy of the writer and the artist to do what they said they were going to do. So one problem that the indie publishers have had is that it's not unusual for there to be significant delays in the writers and the artists making the schedule of the episodes and keeping with the deadlines, because there's just not a lot of disadvantage, certainly no punishment, to being late. And to be on time, it means that both the writer and the artist are on time. So when these episodes are made available to the public on a more irregular basis, then it can certainly hurt the brand, especially if the delay is too long. And once again, the indie publishers don't have a lot of leverage in that situation. Speaking of the artist, you are, even more than with the writers, you're often dealing with artistic temperaments. So what does that mean? Well, you're dealing with a type of person for whom business may not come easy. Creativity may come very easily, but a sense of business and even at times reasonableness may not be easy to achieve. So more often than not, it may be the artist who's delaying the release of episodes of a particular series. In the worst case situations, you'll have an artist who begins to act in a kind of a self-destructive way. And not only might he delay the episodes, but he may even play the role of a kind of a suicide bomber in which more or less he can destroy the entire project. And once again, there isn't an easy and a good way to control that, except for the relationship between the writer and the artist, which may be good, may be not so good, it may be so-so, and say the admonitions of the editors and the indie publishers. But beyond that, it can be a difficult situation.